Yes, we are, and we're not talking about the FIS now, we're talking about the balance of the annual report. The FIS is being held in mid.
This is the Airport Commission annual report.
Okay,
Frank, put it off.
sorry. Lori Smith, 3rd District. So I did just want to clarify because I believe the gentleman before me was making a comment about your comments in that report about the FIS study. Yeah.
No, my mistake.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm confused. We are not taking comments on the FIS study.
That's correct.
Okay. While I'm up here, I'll just take this. So we're taking comments only on.
Will be the annual report to
To January.
That's it.
Discussion of the annual report to January. The draft and
The draft. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Excuse me.
Are there any other comments from the audience? I'd like to then take a vote on that motion of moving the balance of the FIS being held aside to the January meeting for our annual report. All in favor? All opposed? Seeing none, the item is approved. Now, I'm going to stop here just for a second. I can't help but notice that our gentleman from the FAA, I believe, is here. Can we hold this then and let? No, we can't.
Let's get beyond it.
Okay. So now we're going to discuss having just this one draft sent to City Council. And I go back to my original sentence. And that's it. Since this draft, which we will read aloud in a minute, states that the entire City Council Commission recommends this. It's maybe a difficult position for us to be in since each of us represent different districts and have different opinions. But go ahead.
We may not. What we'll do is we'll insert the vote in here, whatever it might be.
We'll discuss that another time. So go ahead and read your draft. You're on the floor.
All right. Last month, the Long Beach Airport Advisory Commission conducted the first of 2 public presentations outlining the consultant's report on the proposed federal inspection station. The study articulated substantial economic benefits to our community from international flights, more jobs, and income. Moreover, the city attorney's office concluded the construction of a customs station at the airport would not have any effect on the noise ordinance, nor would it provide any platform for litigation to unravel it. On the other hand, rejecting the customs station proposal would give airlines an incentive to challenge the noise ordinance. After studying the consultant report and listening to the presentations, both from staff and concerned airport neighbors, the Commission recommends that the City Council approve construction of the FIS. We believe it is in the best interest of the city and the airport neighbors to do so.
Where do we start discussion?
We start with the audience.
Well, 'cause I believe there's a blatantly wrong statement in here.
Okay.
On the other hand, rejecting the custom station proposal would give airlines an incentive to challenge the noise ordinance.
We can line that out.
No, I'm not saying line it out, I'm just saying it's wrong.
Well,
It's only.
I don't think so. But if you do, that's fine.
They would only challenge it if there was a station, custom station here to get them in to use it.
Let's leave that sentence out.
Is there more discussion from the commissioners before I open it up to the floor? I go back to my concept that I believe each of us may have a different opinion as to whether we should recommend this to the City Council.
Madam Chair, can I make a statement?
Yes, go ahead.
So one of my concerns is just what I experienced. I have a lot of, we live here, everyone's concerned about the quality of life for everyone. People that are in the flight path and also in other districts. We're here to represent the people that we serve on this board. And I think we have an important responsibility to listen to their concerns, answer their questions. And I don't know if it's the right form or how we can go about that, if it's a blog or if we could have real-time answers to the questions by people that probably are the resident expert. But I think that we need to create an environment where we can answer their questions in a timely fashion. And I don't know how we'll go about doing that, but it's very important. This is their biggest investment, their home. It's their legacy that they pass to their family. And I think it's critical that we listen to them and have some sort of avenue so and get their questions answered in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Commissioner Cheney. Is any other commissioners who wish to speak on this item?
Well, I have another question. Okay. What's the avenue to create that? How do we set up some sort of blog page where in real time, whether it takes time, that their questions can be answered? Is there an avenue that we can do something like that and engage the community?
Commissioner Cheney, actually at both, primarily at the first meeting, which was had a lot of lively debate and concern over answering questions. We made the commitment that questions that were asked at that meeting, as well as the following meeting that occurred at the Economic Development Commission, those will be compiled and answered. We're in that process now of getting that information back out based on those questions. We also made folks aware that they could use our email address for asking questions. To date, I have to turn to our PR director to see how many we've received. Since then, I don't know that we've received any, honestly. We did receive one person who handed us questions at that first meeting, so we already had that in place to answer your question, to make sure that remaining questions, or even questions that have been already asked as part of the first two public outreach community meetings that occurred earlier this year, those questions are responded to.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
I think what Wayne was talking about, and I share that view, is if it's taking 2 months to respond to a question, it doesn't sound like a functioning democracy to me. And I think the frustration, at least that I felt at the meeting that we had, was that all people got to do was just to say what their concern was, and there was no response then, and now you're saying later, and here it is 2 months later, and they still haven't had an answer to the question.
Well, it hasn't been 2 months. Granted, I think the first meeting was a month ago. And as we all know, that was a very long meeting. It was recorded by a stenographer that was then transcribed into paper form. That it's taken some time. To your point, many of the speakers went up there were really more speaking commentary or comment, if you will, not necessarily asking questions. A good number of those questions, by the way, that were asked were previously asked as part of the committee meetings, and that Q&A summary was part of the feasibility study exhibit or addendum. I forget which, but it was in one of the addendum in that report.
Well, I understand we're addressing it. It seems like we want the community to be involved. And it's a different flow, a different energy when I have communication with you instead of email. And I don't know if it's practical, if there is some way that other people can look at the questions, see the questions, look at the answer, because that'll help a lot of people that have, maybe it's not their question, but it's of interest. I'm learning an awful lot by listening to people. So,
Wayne, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. I really appreciate where you're going with that, but that's really not what we're talking about. What we're really talking about is this motion to look at this draft to see whether we should recommend this as a commission to city council. And that is a whole separate item.
question.
good question, but it doesn't.
Inappropriate.
Well, I question if it's appropriate relative to this. I believe if I summarized it, you would say you don't approve of this because of that. But how we handle that problem is not something that's part of this. Am I off base here?
Let me interject it. That was a feasibility study, and the study as of that period of time said, yes, it's feasible. Now, let's not make a mistake. I think Jeff here is kind of focusing on the benefit to the city. Let's remember the primary benefit is for JetBlue. That their business model, and I suggest that that would help their business model, and they requested the study. The study says, yes, it's feasible. The risk is low to outside or litigation from the outside. The challenge is low. There's still the potential there, but it's low. The in-plan study, the data modeling, it takes data in, it spits data out. So as far as what went in, I'm not exactly sure, and what came out is what we saw in the report. So essentially, it's just saying it's feasible, but is it right for the community? Is it proper for the community? When we make a recommendation, and this is something new for us, for the commission to be making a recommendation like that, we can say, yeah, we accept the study for what it is and forward it to the city, because the city's the ones that are ultimately responsible, council, ultimately responsible for moving ahead or not. Just because it's feasible is to have the support of the people which the council members represent. They'll have to interface with the council. Out of that public input, there's only 2 people that really gave support for the idea, for the plan, for the FIS, not necessarily for the study, but supported the customs station. And they're both JetBlue employees, and I respect them for stepping up. Almost everybody else had concerns, whether it was from EIR being outdated, which the attorney or somebody said that would be handled at the next phase. Fine. Whichever way this goes, if you want to recommend that it go forward, so be it. But just because it's feasible doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most welcome thing. And what are we basing our vote on? Is it what we heard from the people, concerns from the people, or is it what we think is right for the city? Thank you.
Hal, just to follow up what you're saying, at least my own judgment on it was based on, there's an old saying that we have to accept facts even if we don't like them. And I didn't hear anybody refute the facts and economic projections that were made in that report. So that made it fairly easy, at least for me, after I finished it. And it's long and detailed, I'll grant you. But it made it relatively easy to say, yes, this is in the best interest of our city, of our population, of all of us.
Easy for you to say.
I don't know if it's easy for me to say, it's just that's a conclusion I think that you have to draw from the facts, unless you want to contend that those facts somehow are wrong, or that the methodology was incorrect, and I haven't heard that in a month. No one has even suggested that.
Yeah, everybody talks about growth and jobs and that. I don't know if the city, how much more the city can handle. I'm already getting notices that I'm using too much water. With all the new projects going in, how are we going to sustain more growth? City of Long Beach, power outages every summer we can't handle. So adding more and more jobs growth, it's ideal. That's what you want to do, but can the city handle it? So I think from the economy point of view, I don't know. Now, I don't always trust the numbers that are thrown out in studies. Like I said, what data goes in will spit the data going out. So I take that with a grain of salt. But then, like I said, do we really need it in Long Beach? There's 4 other custom stations around. For JetBlue's already operating LAX, they have that availability there, maybe if you could swap the flights down to South America at LAX. What's at LAX? Bring them here, send airplane. They've got the business model, they know what's best for their business.
Well, this goes back to my general idea, my original statement. When we looked at this, when I first thought about it, I thought, oh, this is a good idea. But when I hear each of one of our commissioners talk from their own point of view, I find it difficult for us as a commission. Jeff, you said, say what the vote was, but when the vote doesn't tell them, we can't say we recommended when we, at least, when I listen to it.
We can say that we voted X to Y on this motion, which now excludes the sentence that Al objected to.
I suppose.
I guess my question is, I don't know if it's this commission's purview to recommend
That's where I'm
they
going.
go ahead. We could recommend that, yeah, we accept the study, but to recommend that they go ahead and build the facility, I don't think that's, I'm not comfortable with that.
And
Go ahead, Jeff.
okay, I had to flip back to the notes of the meeting of our October 20th, 2016 meeting. And to item 4, and it's the recommendation to consider the content of the Airport Advisory Commission annual report and take action to refer it. We're not saying it's right, but we're saying the information presented so far gives us a good model enough to consider the possibility that it may work. It may not. That's not our decision, but right at this point, it is, we've taken on this responsibility at this moment to make a recommendation, or we're going to refer our opinion to the council. And I think that's all we're doing, we're referring that FIS commission, the FIS feasibility study, we are saying we find nothing negative that would stop it from moving forward. We should refer it to City Council for their consideration.
Well, but the wording doesn't say that. The wording says it recommends the city council approve construction of the FIS.
So if you want to take a vote on that, I'm ready.
Do we want to modify this wording in some fashion?
I don't have a problem with the way it's written.
Well, first of all, we have to ask people from the audience to comment. No, we don't. Well, first we have to listen to the comments.
Good afternoon.
Let me have a rule on that. Do we listen to the comments first, or do we vote first?
You can listen to comments.
Yes, that's fine.
The rules as apply, as always, please name and address and 3 minutes, please.
My name is Ray Gavlich, and I'm a 48-year resident of Long Beach. I serve both on the Board of Health and Human Services and the Parks and Recreation Commission, followed by 2 elected terms on the City Council representing the 8th District. It is my opinion that your draft document is not a legitimate annual report of Commission activities. The purpose of the annual report is to advise the City Council on the Commission's activities of the prior year and their goals for the following year. Instead, this 2016 report criticizes and attempts to demean the neighborhood group known as Hush 2, the community group that I have been associated with since 1985, then under the leadership of Councilmember Ed Tuttle. It was a time when not only was the city being sued by dozens of airlines who wanted flight slots at Long Beach, but also sued by hundreds of Long Beach families. For the record, today, Hush represents over 1,000 homes in Long Beach, not 50 individuals. Hush 2 reorganized in 2001 when JetBlue was approved for all remaining flight slots at Long Beach, and the city promises were made to enlarge our airport terminal. To be clear, history has proven LB Hush 2 to be on the right side and has shown why blindly accepting what aviation experts state can prove terribly wrong. In May 2001, the city attorney's office said that an airport-related action that didn't touch the airport ordinance wouldn't risk the airport ordinance. That advice turned out to be dead wrong. The council's action triggered complaints, brought an FAA administrative inquiry, and nearly brought a worst-case scenario lawsuit. When residents learned that council members had done this basically to support JetBlue, they voted out 2 council members and elected 2 new ones, including myself. Among my first challenges was facing JetBlue's demand for new permanent terminal facilities. A city-hired consultant recommended a monstrosity over 30% larger than we have now. The consultant's advice would have permanently destroyed our boutique-sized airport. LB hushed to oppose this. I opposed this. So did thoughtful members of this commission and the majority of the council members. And as a result, we prevailed, and Long Beach today has an airport that wins awards and travelers love. In 2013, without council voted authority, but at the request of JetBlue, airport management began pursuing a customs facility, an action that couldn't be limited to JetBlue. Jeff, this is for you. Our airport management commissioned 2 internal feasibility studies. Neither one of these reports could justify the investments based on needed funding and the less than significant economic impact it would have on Long Beach. It was a Long Beach-based report, not a regional report. Have you read the 2013 reports? Have you read the 697-page Jacobs study?
Yes.
Appeasing a single airline is bad policy. A corporate entity ultimately acts to advance its bottom line. Your role and this city's role is to protect the public interest, not parrot corporate interests. Obviously, they're not always the same. And I know you're going to cut me off, but I'm going to say one more thing. I recommend that you recommend to the city council that they have an FIS study before the city council and invite you to attend once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah Langley, and I live at 3821 North Jock Bowman Place, Long Beach, California. And I've been around for like 25 years. And I want to correct this gentleman here who said the last meeting on the 20th, I believe it was the 20th, that we had the meeting before. You said that people have to ask questions and get answers. At the very end, for everybody left with a lot of people, you stood up and said, okay, they need answers now.
Can you speak into the microphone?
You know, first there was a big argument about, will there be any questions, will there be any answers? Okay, you can make comments, and then after everybody left, you said, oh, I guess we can answer some questions now. Well, that was a little late, so, no.
Thank you.
Hi, Chuck, I'm on 5469 East Avenue Street. I'm the chair of the Los Altos Center of Adjacent Neighborhoods. I have been to every single one of the feasibility studies. I even went to the Metroplex FAA study in Orange County. I think the only other person in this room is Ron Reeves, who's in everything. At the Economic Commission, they received and filed. At your committee meeting, we received and filed the FIS study. My understanding is the next, because everyone was there for FIS, the next item was this report. In the report, it had to recommend the FIS facility. So it was written even before this commission even heard all the comments from everyone. The other thing is, I want to point out, I'm not an expert, but my understanding is the agenda item was put off until January. And so what you're voting on right now isn't really an agendized item because you've already accepted that item and you put it off until January. So I'm thinking that this might be a Brown Act violation by now having a motion on the floor from an item that was already voted on and set off to January. Just saying that that might be a problem. The other thing is that really the community really needs to have the council look at this. This shouldn't even be before you. You received it in file. That's what you should do. You should move on to other items. The report looks like basically a plan for the airport in the future, and I'm not sure that a lot of those things were even discussed over the year. So I know that my community is very concerned about everything that is going on in this meeting today. I had to leave work early to be here today, And I think when they hear back, it's not going to look very good on this commission. I know that our commission representative, Elizabeth Cruz, is not here because of a family emergency. And so we don't really even have a voice here. My neighborhood.
Yes, you do.
Well, we don't have,
District court.
right, she's in our neighborhood, so my neighborhood looks to her. Anyway, I just want to bring those points up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joe Sokol. I wanted to, Doug Halbert, name you might be familiar with, was on the AAC. He's also our city prosecutor. He stood before you in 2015, and these are his words. In my opinion, it is an area the city should be extremely cautious because they're creating, in addition to the domestic carriers who potentially might be the suspects, to challenge our ordinance. And I don't even know all the international carriers, but you're essentially creating a whole new list of suspects that might want to challenge our noise ordinance. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you remember the first challenge was the result of someone feeling that the system was gamed, that JetBlue came in, they got all extensions, and were able to ramp up service in Long Beach, and Long Beach wasn't gaming the system, but they thought they were. They even thought that no one wanted our slots at one time. Somebody came in and all the slots were given to them. But that's a feeling of unfairness. If someone looks at JetBlue and says JetBlue gets all the international flights because they're underutilizing their existing slots, they may feel that it's unfair too, and that they may create that argument that they want to challenge the noise ordinance because they weren't treated fairly. So those are two things that are extremely, extremely careful if the city can do anything to guarantee that those two dynamics don't create a motive or an environment for someone who is interested in challenging the noise ordinance. It would be very smart. He also said Airline X currently flies from Long Beach to Texas. And so who's the competition? Other airlines that fly from Long Beach to Texas, right? What if the airline is now flying from Long Beach to, say, Cabo San Lucas? I don't know who flies from LA to Cabo San Lucas, but whoever that person is going to feel extremely threatened by an airline that is now has a route to Cabo San Lucas. That's exactly what happened last time with JetBlue. Someone felt threatened. I think there are two airlines that complained to the FAA because they felt threatened by another airline that's competing in their markets. JetBlue can currently fly anywhere in the country domestically. They want to fly, but if Long Beach allowed international flights, now they're opening up a worldwide market. Other carriers may want to fly internationally as well and would seek slots. Wherever they go in the world, they're going to be competing with somebody. Whoever they compete with is going to feel threatened. It's just happened 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Doug said, I'm a lawyer. I'm very cautious. I'm paid to worry, and you should worry. You should invite Doug Halbert here to speak in front of you about this issue. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Donna Sievers. I live at 3020 East Vista in Bluff Heights. I just wanted to mention, first of all, Commissioner Gosling, I appreciate that you brought up the issue of what feasibility actually means, because I had that same question when we had this feasibility study. And if you look it up, I just checked on Google again, feasibility means possible to do. So I think maybe I would agree it's possible to do this FIS facility. It's possible and feasible. But my question is to all of you to really search our Long Beach souls. Is it wise or is it necessary? I think to either of those questions I say no, it's not a wise decision and it's certainly not necessary, given some of the points you made with airports, Ontario, all the other ones that have been serving national clients. Two of my concerns about the comments that Commissioner Rowe just read to us. The first one is, I also attended the meetings. There was passionate outbursts from people because it's such a sensitive topic. And I don't see anywhere in your report that you actually spoke to that. There were 3 city council members that also heard that, but there were other city council members who were not present. And it would be behooving on your part, I think, to give them a fair, honest representation of what we all heard, which was tremendous concern about our municipal airport being turned into an international airport. My next concern would be about this legal issue. Your comment was that it sounded like your conclusion is that there's no legal difficulty here. We're going to be fine, and we all know that that's not possible. I think our city attorney also made that statement clear when he said that any carrier or group of carriers could challenge our noise ordinance. Recently, I just was looking at some of the information. We have 35 slots that are JetBlue, and we have 15 slots that are allocated to other carriers. I think any judge in the country might question why JetBlue has such a, even though they probably gained those slots in a very reasonable legal manner, the end result is they have a very strong financial interest in this international airport, and other carriers will easily, I think, soon. So again, I'll go back to my thought, you need to be very wise, and is this issue necessary? And I hope you would just be more balanced in your report to the city council.
Thank you.
I'd like to just interject real quick. The annual report period would go through September of 2016. The FIS project came before us in October. So that annual report should not cover anything to do with the FIS in that period of time. All the FIS stuff will be from October 2016 through September 2017, the next report.
So, let me be sure I understand this. The annual report that we will discuss in January is from September to September.
Accordingly, yes. September, October through September. So the October 2015 through September 2016. The FIS stuff started in October. So that'll be in the next report, not this one. Something we can talk about.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, I'm Lori Smith, 3rd District. I just want to talk to you guys about some issues, some concerns, and questions I had before you moved on with this decision. I'm not sure if you can reply back to me, but I'll just go ahead and ask them. The Long Beach Municipal Code, Chapter 2.27, Airport Advisory Commission, reads, no member shall participate in any decision in which he or she has a material financial interest with the meaning of the California Political Reform Act. Each member shall file a statement of economic interest in accordance with the California Political Reform Act. I did ask for statement 700s from the city, but they said it's unresponsive, and that was October 21st. So I don't know if people here need to file statements. Karen, you had mentioned that you filed them, so it would be great if I could get one from you guys. I also want to mention the Code of Ethics from the City Council of Long Beach, which was adopted in 2003. It applies to city employees, officers, and commission members. This code requires that all employees, officers, and commission members shall pledge to uphold all laws, regulations, and policies, take no action for the purpose of benefiting the official or employee personally, make every effort to avoid conflict of interest, and to avoid disclosure of confidential information obtained in the performance of their duties of their official capacity, and exercise prudence and good judgment. I do just want to mention again that the chair, Karen Sherman, owns a company that resides at the airport. Astaire Air is an active aircraft dealer, and Glenn Ray is the managing partner of the consortium and president of Million Air, which built the 200,000-gallon fuel tank that resides here. They are also on the Long Beach Airport Association, which advances aviation, economic growth, and business diversity. Glenn is a board member, along with Lou Anthony, the general manager from JetBlue Airlines. So Glenn Ray, owner of the Million Air North, is on a board, and Karen is a due-paying member, so I'm just curious if you guys see any difficulty with regards to your decision here today to put that forward. Do I still have more time? Do I still have more time? Okay, so I do just want to let you know that it's not for us to say, and the California Fair Political Process Commission will be the one to make judgment on that. still waiting to find out about your statement 700, but I suppose that they can move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry, my name is Birgit Alator. I live at 4465 Cerritos Avenue. That's in the 8th Council District. And I have a question similar to the young lady that was just here. I would like to find out where we can find your background information, your statements of no financial interest. I've been looking on the internet, I couldn't find anything. So I would add myself to that request. And but anyway, overall, I have to say I feel quite blindsided by this agenda item. It's sort of like what they do in Sacramento with the government procedure. It seems like this plan, this report doesn't have any of the items that one would expect in an annual report. It just deals with these recommendations, which I don't know where they come from. It seems to me the council hasn't asked you to go over the report and come up with recommendations or take a vote on the recommendations. So I just don't understand why we're even discussing this. We have a meeting at the council December 15th, and at that point the council would or would not say, okay, we're done with this now, or let's look at some more, let's have the Advisory Commission take a closer look. I think that should be the purpose of the commission. That could take more time and maybe look into more detail than the council would, because that is your area of expertise. You're not dealing with all these other areas that you have to like the council, that you have to know about. So the council counts on you to really take apart this feasibility plan. As far as the danger to the noise ordinance, I do object to Mr. Rowe's comment or summary that I feel is completely incorrect, saying that the feasibility study says there is not any effect on the noise ordinance. That wasn't stated at all. We don't know if there's any effect. We're not future, we can't see the future, but it definitely wasn't said that there's not any effect. So being as that may be, we don't know anything about it. We don't know how the facility will affect the noise ordinance, but as far as City Council and representing, and you are representative of City Council right now, you should be looking at the financial ramifications, and I feel, and to represent all citizens of Long Beach, not just those that are affected by the noise. I think the financial question is a big one. So you should be asking, are the economic numbers that the study provides enough for me to make a decision? And again, Mr. Rowe said, nobody refuted the numbers. No, nobody refuted the numbers, but a lot of people asked, wasn't the question asked whether it's good for Long Beach? What are the numbers for Long Beach? Long Beach is taking the risk. Long Beach is going to be involved in paying for it, but we don't know what the economic benefits are to us. So that's a question that a lot of people have asked, and we haven't had an answer. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, commissioners, and always pleased to speak with you folks. Kevin McCacken, lifetime resident of Long Beach, and by the way, today that means 64 years. It just happens to be my birthday year. A couple of thoughts here. I myself am very much in favor of the customs facility being developed here, and I've been vocal in many of the meetings, so I don't want to go over that. I also would like to say that JetBlue is a great corporate customer for the Long Beach Airport and has served the community well. I really believe so. They've, more than any other airline that I have seen, they have become involved with the community in many ways, including the marathon, which was just concluded, I think, last month. As you can see, I don't run very much. But I do have a suggestion, and with all due respect, I know that you've taken a great deal of public comment on this on both sides. I think somebody made a comment here that there was only 2 people supporting it, and they were JetBlue employees, and I do have to correct that. There were other folks from businesses and the Airport Association that were there, and in fact did speak to the issue. But we have a report in front of us here that I think, if you will, a compromise. In some way that word is good, in some ways it isn't good. But perhaps the issue boils down to accepting, filing a report with the council that you've taken a great deal of public comment on both sides, that you are passing the feasibility study. Somebody had the definition of feasibility earlier here. And I think that the study is valid from the standpoint of its professionalism and so forth. And I would think that that might be one way that you would want to go, is simply pass the study on, say we've read it, we've taken comment on it, and we believe that it is a valid study. And guess what? It's for the council ultimately to decide anyway. And take that as a bay, and I think that may be a good suggestion. We'll see where it goes this afternoon here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Reed Havoc. I live at 4430 Olive Avenue. And I hear you folks speaking about jobs creation and income into our community. But I don't know if anybody has thought about the adverse side of what may happen. For property, if we do get increased airlines flying over, folks like me aren't going to want to live in a noisy environment, and we're going to move. And we're going to move to different areas. Our property values in general throughout Long Beach are going to drop. That's going to affect property taxes, that's going to affect businesses, that's going to affect our city as a whole. You talk about job creations for creating this terminal. Well, the creation of it, the building, physical building of it is temporary. The people who will work there, I'd be interested to see what percentage of people living in Long Beach that they predict how much that would be. Everyone I spoke to is against this and against any modifications to the airport and to the noise ordinance. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Thank you.
My name is Leo Appel, and I live at 3020 East Avenue, Long Beach. And I've lived here 80 years. I was born in the Secretary's hospital. I remember Lori saying the FAA Metroplex analysis would be included in the study, and apparently it's not. My second question is, should we be listening to Mr. Martin's presentation before? Oh, sorry. Did you hear that? No.
We can't look at
Yeah.
The back didn't hear.
Here, I'll get down. Should we be listening to Mr. Martin's presentation before we come to conclusions about the FIS? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more people to speak from the audience? Then I want to
Say one more. Everybody knows we're having problems with water. Everyone knows our air is not good. And I don't even know why we're talking about any of this. I'd rather water my tree than water strangers. So, and the money, who's going to clean the air? Who's going to buy the water? I think you shouldn't be talking about any of this. Thank you.
We are unfortunately talking about it.
I have a follow-up question too. The gentleman earlier suggested that you just sort of take a vote on
We really
the...
don't take questions, just...
No, it's not a question.
Okay, let's see what you said. But go
A
ahead.
follow-up comment, sorry. Suggested that you should just take this up and vote and agree on the fact that it's a valid study. That's a really good point because many of us that live in the impacted areas do not feel it's a valid study and that it's not providing all the information that the council would need to know, and I mentioned that earlier. I think if you were to go down that road of approving it, you should ask more questions first. For example, you should ask what is the economic benefit to Long Beach, not just the region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Smith, 3rd District. I just did want to say one thing. Jesse had brought up about prior meetings, and not just the last meeting, but the one before the FIS study was done. I had asked for the FAA Metroplex to be included in that study, and it was not included in that study. So I don't feel confident that all the questions that we asked when we're standing up here are actually being relayed later or being considered, because that was not taken into consideration when they did the FAS study. And as we all know, the phase 1 of the Metroplex is upon us now, and phase 2 and 3 are in the springtime. So I believe it would be the responsible thing for everyone to do to wait until the Metroplex is upon us, and then we could really make a judgment on whether or not that is going to be affecting us in a adverse way, in which our former airport director said it would. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and when we finish this, we will get to your Metroplex.
I don't want to set a trend, but everybody seems to be taking a second shot here. So let me clarify what I was speaking of.
It's your birthday.
Kevin McCaffrey, I get one. Thank you very much. I get one for my birthday. When I was speaking about the study, and I think it's a neutral situation, because when you look at the study, it is again a feasibility study. So that study was juxtaposed against our noise ordinance, obviously. But the study itself, I believe, was valid from the conclusions that they made on the feasibility keyword of the facility. The feasibility is there. I believe Jacobs Engineering was not tasked to do environmental work or community work and so forth, other than obviously answer questions or be available to meetings that were held in public meetings. It's simply a feasibility study on a customs facility at Long Beach Airport. Pure and simple. And I see no reason why you could not move that forward, accepting the validity of the study's conclusions, but still not give a yay or nay on the facility itself. I know it's a fine line we're talking about here, but I think that's the thing to do, and that's what I would advocate. If anybody takes a third shot, I might come up again, but hopefully not. So, thank you. Gotta hate that singing though in the restaurant. That's why I'm not going to
Happy
the
birthday,
restaurant.
Coach. I'd like to go back to the commissioners, having listened to everything everyone had to say. And being as I'm chair, I get the first crack at this. One thing that came up that does bother me a little is the way we're doing all of this. Even though one or two of us feel one way or another way, can we, and I'm just stating this to my commissioners, it's my opinion, before you go, and you can all state your opinion, but I do worry about whether we should even do this, or in January, look at our annual report, which wouldn't even include the feasibility study, for what you said, which I did not realize beforehand. When I asked to have an annual report put together, which was now 2 or 3 meetings ago, I was not aware of that material fact. The annual report came out, to my personal opinion, had a lot of things in there that shouldn't be. So I went back and spoke to everyone, and we threw it back. And now we have this. And I, listening to all this, I personally, whether I recuse myself or not, though my business has nothing to do with this kind of thing, I personally think we should not do this, but it's my opinion, so let's go back.
So we have a motion
We have a motion. Does anyone else have any comments before we make a vote?
Well,
I'd like to make a vote individually.
One I would like to say something and get a record straight. Prior to that first FIS feasibility study, the public study, we had the materials available to us as it was to you. I think a lot of us had about 10 days to study the material. And so to say that we did not, we just walked in, listened to the man, made our judgment, and now here's our final say on it, it's not cutting us any slack on doing our job. We really try. I think we're trying to put an opinion forward that the council should go ahead and consider the FIS study as being valid and nothing more than that. We don't consider the impacts, we don't consider the benefits. And on the second note, economics, the Economic Development Commission, they held the second meeting. If you were not there, then you missed your opportunity to throw the economic questions out.
What was that meeting?
I could probably tell you, but it would take a couple minutes to find the notes on it.
It was posted along with the board.
It was October 25th.
And they didn't answer questions.
So, back to the first statement. All we need to do tonight is to vote to forward an opinion at this time. We've heard the study. I find no problems with it as a study. It's strictly feasibility. So, taking it at its face value, it was a valid feasibility study. The information in it was valid. If we want to hear what the real facts are, we're going to have to take one more step closer to this.
Excuse me,
Yes,
it's our turn now.
I read it.
It's our turn now, excuse me.
It's several.
It's our turn now.
It's not something that I take lightly, as I was one of those people in 1981 who filed a suit against this city and against this airport. So I know what you're saying, what you're thinking. A lot of the fears would have been dismissed by just keeping up with what's going on within this commission and panel. And I'm not trying to, I guess, hammer the public on this, but we're trying to fit too many things into one statement. And the statement is, it was a valid feasibility study and they should move forward for consideration. Period.
So, this would have to be reworded. So let me take a one-by-one vote on this as it is written, because that's the only thing we have in front of us to vote.
Is there a second on the motion?
We have a second.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a little bit differently this time. Instead of all in favor, I'm going to one by one.
You know, I'm sorry, because could we ask for purposes of just making sure that it's clear, can we have a restatement of the motion as well as the second? Because I do recall there was a motion second to carry over the draft annual report till January. And I know that it was the reading of this document here. I don't recall the sequence, so if we can have it just for the record.
Another reading.
Are you interested in changing it to this?
I don't think he's going to read it, he just wants to understand what the motion
Oh,
is.
just read, just the motion.
Well, the motion is that we take this is our motion here. So it's that we approve that motion.
That we approve. Please, let us handle this on our own. There's enough confusion going here.
Chairman, I apologize, I wasn't here at the beginning. Did you was there a motion and a second for the original agendized item?
Yes.
And was there a vote?
It was a vote.
Okay. But this isn't a friendly amendment to an agendized item.
That's correct.
So because you're voting on something that was not agendized, the public hasn't had an opportunity to see the item and then
This is how
vote.
just wanted to do it.
No, I don't know.
Go in this direction. Well, then maybe you can redirect us then, because that's what we ended up doing.
It's not here in the agenda. When you look at it, there's a motion to substitute or something like that you're talking about.
In the first motion, there can be a substitute motion. Somebody can ask for a substitute, and then there has to be a vote on that, and whether you go back to the original. But once you close the agenda item, you can have discussion, but you can't actually, but you can't bring forth an agenda item for consideration and to do a vote without providing for that, without that item being agendized.
What we did is we decided to jettison all the other items except for this FIS portion of it. That's all we did. So we reworded that item, but that's all we did.
But there was a vote. There was a vote to hold over the item until January.
Because that's the procedure that we were directed here. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm in an alternate universe, but that was the way you told us to do it.
No, that's not what I said, Commissioner Rowe. The original agenda item was for this draft annual report as it was carried over from last month. I think it was your desire to add in this proposed change.
It was simply just to set aside everything else other than that one item.
But it wasn't exactly that because it included a recommendation to support construction of the FIS or
We revised the wording on that one item, that's all we did. And that's draft language still that we're talking about right now.
And commissioners, our role here is just to provide guidance, but it would appear just on face value that if you're going to make a motion and you're going to vote on something that is different from what's on here, then you do have to provide the public the opportunity to know that that's what you're going to do, so that they have an opportunity to attend. Once again, just providing you guidance as a commission. But I'm not...
You're saying we can only act on the original language?
Correct. But from what I'm understanding is there was a motion and a second and regarding that original item.
Because we thought we were setting it aside to come back on that warrant. That's what we thought we were doing.
Well, by doing this, we'd be breaking ground.
Well, we don't have a city attorney here, but I would, and I'm not an expert on the Brown Act, but from what I've seen, I would caution about actually making a formal vote. You've had conversation, you've received public comment, but as to a formal vote on a non-agendized item, I'm just cautioning.
I'd like to be cautious.
I do too.
Be safe.
I speak on caution, and I believe a couple of us anyhow feel that we don't have the right, in retrospect, to do this. So,
Substitute motion? Over you.
where I am.
You can't substitute on a motion that because the agendized item.
Can we vote to take the motion off the table?
Oh, you just denied.
Vote on a motion.
It's not.
Well,
Moved and seconded. Thank you, Rick.
It's been moved and seconded.
What has?
That we would do this, but under advice, perhaps we should withdraw this motion.
I'm talking about previous one,
What we voted on and approved
For January.
for January.
That's passed.
That's what I'm saying, so that makes this
A non-agenda. That's correct.
at this point.
But even though we have a motion on the floor, we maybe have to withdraw that motion. We have to vote to withdraw the motion.
It'll be a moot point.
should require a vote. Right, I don't know for a fact, but I would say that if you have an invalid motion on the floor, there is no need to vote.
Well, A, we don't know that it's invalid. B,
Part of my words then, you have an unagendized motion.
well, again, what we intended to do was to simplify things and just take out all the other recommendations and just leave with one. And all we did then is we simply revised the draft of that one item. That was our intent.
Well, as chair, I think I'm going to have to step in here. I apologize, Jeff. I know where your heart is at for this. But in this case, I think we've gone down the path too far, and we have to just go to item number 4, which is to discuss the Metroplex project.
We move this to January?
Yes. We already motioned.
You've already voted to hold this over to January.
We've already done that. And in January, we will present a revised annual report. A whole report. That will deal with from September to October 1st, along the guidelines that are, by the way, in your book, that the annual report is supposed to do. So I would really like to thank everybody for coming. Come visit us in January. It'd be nice to have a and I'm very anxious to, as I'm sure you are too, have our presentation from the Federal Aviation Administration from the Western Pacific region regarding the SoCal Metroplex projects.
Madam Chair, while Mr. Martin is preparing for the presentation here, just a reminder to the Commission that the FAA across the country, especially here, including here in the Western Pacific region, has carried on a number of outreach efforts, a number of presentations over the last few years to talk about Metroplex, what it is, and how it will impact the region, if you will. This is intended to be a relatively high-level summary of the Metroplex, and that Mr. Martin has some previous commitments. So once he's complete with his presentation, I don't know how much time he probably will have limited time to entertain your questions, and then he would have to leave. That said, I know they recently had an open house in Orange last week or week before last, and there will be an upcoming open house in this area in January of 2017.